Good morning. This is Don V with Truth Be Told, and we have a few interesting stories we'd like to share with you this morning. But before we move to that, please remember to subscribe. Over 90% of the people who view my videos are not subscribers. It's completely free, and it really helps me out and helps my numbers out and helps my channel grow. If you subscribe and share, I'd really appreciate it. Without ado, let's move to the first one. It says, whatever happened to the hard drives, computers, and flash drives with voter data that was confiscated by the FBI in Arizona on November 5th? Good question. Where did the flash drives, computers, and hard drives go? And how is Elliot Kerwin involved? In early December, it was reported that a house in Maricopa County was targeted by the FBI on November 5th. Found at the house were flash drives, hard drives, computers, and voting information. We reported on this. The warrant for the raid showed that the house where the voting data, flash drives, and computers were located belonged to a man by the name of 56-year-old IT expert Elliot Kerwin. To date, no further information has been found or reported about the data taken and the mysterious Mr. Kerwin. How come? Is this now another FBI cover-up? Good question. Good question. Moving on. Says VAERS website is currently offline after a number of COVID jab deaths reached 11,405 as listed on the website. The VAERS website released its most recent weekly numbers on Saturday. According to the website, there are now 11,405 reported deaths from the jab in the U.S., according to the latest numbers. This is up from 11,140 total jab deaths last week. Sure, it's much higher than that. This was up from 9,125 reported deaths from COVID-19 jabs total from the previous week. And as you can see the chart here, the number of deaths linked to the CDC promoted jabs this year has absolutely skyrocketed according to the CDC's own data. The VAERS database contains information on unverified reports of adverse events, illness, health problems, and or symptoms following immunization with U.S. licensed jabs. The CDC government website links to the VAERS program or platform. Obviously, that VAERS website has gained much attention not from the fake news mainstream media, but from Americans seeking the truth on the COVID jabberdoodles. They had the vaccine pushers in a panic. They immediately called on the tech giants to fact-check anyone who would report on the CDC-linked website numbers. But now the VAERS website is offline. It's been offline for hours. Open VAERS. We are sorry, the site is currently offline due to technical difficulties. You cannot log in. Please do not send emails asking to. We will have the site back up soon. According to the Red State, Dusty Hill of ZZ Top passes away. Remember him when he'd play with the old red roadster? Dusty Hill, the long-bearded bassist of Texas blues rock band ZZ Top for more than 50 years, has died. Hill was 72. He passed away in his sleep Monday night. The cause of death is not yet known. The band issued the following statement. We are saddened by the news today that our compadre, Dusty Hill, has passed away in his sleep at home in Houston, Texas. We, along with legions of ZZ Top fans around the world, will miss your steadfast presence, your good nature and enduring commitment to provide that monumental bottom to the top. We will forever be connected to that blues shuffle in C. You will be greatly missed, amigo. Frank and Billy. Hill, along with the bandmates, guitarist, vocalist Billy Gibbons, and drummer Frank Beard, first came to national attention in 1974, when the song La Grange from the band's third album, Tres Hombres, barely missed entering the top 40, while the album itself reached number 8 on the Billboard charts. ZZ Top's most successful period came in the 80s, fueled by adding synthesized beats underneath the band's blues riffs and a slew of videos featuring as many scantily clad women as could be assembled. The band's image of the king of ribald rock star Cool was now forever established, and while the band's commercial fortunes waxed and waned over the years, it remained an unstoppable top-dollar concert draw for the duration. The band was elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004. Hill had several health misadventures during his career. In 1984, he accidentally shot himself with his own Derringer. In recent years, he battled hepatitis and at the time of his death was receiving treatment for a hip condition. Hill's passing is a sobering reminder of how the blues foundation of rock and roll is rapidly fading. He came from a generation that rejected race-based sanitation of popular music, instead fully embracing the earthly, electric blues of pioneers such as John Lee Hooker and Muddy Waters, who the band slyly name-checked in Waiting For, Bust Jesus, just left Chicago. Although ZZ Top were not blues purists, the blues were always at the heart of everything they did, mixing in influences such as Tex-Mex raw 1950s country, Full Tilt Boogie. ZZ Top had an image, to be sure, but the image did not define the band. Rather, it was the music that defined the image. ZZ Top made sultry, sexy, stripped down to its essential blues-infused rock. It was, is, and always will be music for working people looking for an outlet when cutting loose after a week's work is done. Hill is survived by his wife and a daughter from a previous relationship. We will hear you on the X, Dusty. Next one, it says, Pelosi pulls rank on Biden, says he doesn't have the power to cancel student debt. Speaker of the House and Democratic California Representative Nancy Pelosi said Wednesday that Slow Joe doesn't have the power to cancel student loan debt. People think that the President of the U.S. has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress, Pelosi said during a Wednesday press conference at the Capitol. Kind of funny how they can use the Constitution when they want to. The rest of the time, they just throw it out with the bathwater. Pelosi's comments follow Senate Majority Leader and Democratic New York Senate Chuck Schumer Tuesday statements urging Biden to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt per borrower. With the flick of a pen, Schumer was joined by the Democratic Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and Democrat Massachusetts Representative Ayanna Pressley at the Tuesday press conference. Schumer and Warren have been holding press conferences urging student loan debt cancellation since at least the fall, according to the Market Watch. Pelosi appeared to cast some doubt on her commitment to the cause during her press conference. Suppose your child decided that they do not want to go to college, but you're paying taxes to forgive somebody else's obligations? You may not be happy about that, she said. Yeah, just like I'm not happy about her sending trillions of dollars to the Saudi Arabia region, Iran, and all them. Biden made a promise to forgive up to $10,000 of student loan debt while on the campaign trail as part of its COVID-19 relief measure. Biden has since walked back those campaign promises. Of course he has. He's a big liar. When asked during a December press conference if he would sign an executive order canceling up to $50,000 in student loan debt, he said he was unlikely to do that, according to the Washington Compost. A recent Washington Post editorial has called on House Democrat to subpoena Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, and former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Oh, this is just what do you think? Sorry. He appeared to undercut his campaign promise in a May interview with the New York Times when he said, "The ideal that you go to Penn and you're paying a total of $70,000 a year and the public should pay for that? I don't agree." Moving on to the second news. January 6 prisoners being stripped, hogtied, sexually abused, and brutally beaten. One prisoner blinded. It's worse than Gitmo. Prison guards are routinely stripping, sexually abusing, and hogtying and brutally beating the January 6 protesters currently incarcerated, according to a disturbing new report. Ryan Samsel was leading the charge against Capitol Hill police during the January 6 protests. Samsel pushed the flimsy bike racks and stormed the U.S. Capitol that day. Since his arrest, Samsel has been held indefinitely in Washington, D.C. On March 21st, he was awakened by correctional officers, his hands zip-tied, then walked to an unoccupied cell and brutally beaten to a bloody pulp by the officers, allegedly. The beating was so bad, Samsel lost one of his eyes. Oh, my word. But he was not alone. The Gateway Pundit reports on Thursday night, attorney Joseph McBride joined Greg Kelly on Newsmax to discuss the abuse of the January 6 political prisoners in Washington, D.C. This is absolutely horrific account. Joseph McBride. What I can say about the January 6 protesters who remain incarcerated or detained at this point is their constitutional rights and human rights are being violated by DOJ and the federal government. At this very moment, the law is clear that no type of punishment is appropriate for a detainee, despite the numerous detainees are being held in solitary confinement for a long period of time. They are being denied medical care, they're taking beatings, they're being denied sleep, they're being psychologically and emotionally and physically tortured on a regular basis. Oh my word. Greg Kelly. Hold on a second. Who's beating them up? Joseph McBride. I'm alleging that the guards are beating them up. The staff are beating prisoners on a regular basis and have been doing so for a long time. This is no exaggeration. Greg Kelly. Was your client, Richard Barnett, beaten up by the staff? Joseph McBride. He absolutely was. He was beaten, he was dragged, he was hogtied. One time, his pants dropped below his ankles, exposing his private parts while he was taking a beating in front of a female officer, and he had to beg and plead to pull his pants up. The January 6 political prisoners are being treated worse than Americans' most dangerous enemies. Where the heck are all the human rights groups? Via Greg Kelly reports. Very, very sad. Last but not least, Feds exempting some illegal immigrants from normal ID requirements on flights. Yeah, of course they are. We're abandoning every single security norm we learned after 9/11 just to move illegal aliens throughout the country, said Mark Morgan, former acting commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Prevention. As the Biden administration ramps up the release of illegal migrants detained at the southern border, they're exempting many of the Transportation Security Agency's government photo ID rules for airline travel, giving them special permissions to fly after a background check. Yeah, I bet they're not doing that. TSA officials say they are confident the screenings that the U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials are doing before migrants are permitted onto U.S. domestic flights is ensuring security. But a former head of the CBP told Just the News he is not so sure. I'm sure CBP is doing as much due diligence as possible, said Mark Morgan, who served as acting commissioner of the agency under President Donald J. Trump and chief of U.S. Border Patrol and acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement under Barack Obama. But when you have 180,000 people crossing a month and many don't have official travel documents normally needed to ensure identity, there is only so much you can do. Yeah, like send them back. All American passengers are provided to provide TSA a government-issued photo ID, usually a state-issued driver's license or a passport, Homeland Security Trusted Traveler Card, Green Card, or Department of Defense ID. There are procedures when an American forgets their ID at the airport, which requires filling out extensive paperwork, waiting for the ID verification, and then undergoing a pat-down search according to the TSA website. Officials said illegal immigrants being released from detention pose additional challenges if they don't arrive at the border with a passport or other clear government-trusted IDs. Some arrive with birth certificates issued by foreign countries or have generic IDs that don't carry the same weight as a passport or a driver's license. TSA officials said CBP officials will call consulates and embassies for the home countries when migrants are detained without official travel papers in an effort to ascertain their identities before allowing them to take flight. Sure. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, has an established process to verify the identity of undocumented individuals who have received immigration documents from U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, the CBP, and are ticketed for travel on commercial airline. TSA Press Secretary Sarah Rodriguez told Just the News. TSA coordinates with CBP and uses resources available to the agency to confirm the identity of every traveler to ensure that transportation security is not compromised, she added. But Morgan said such an ad hoc system is only as good as the information that a host country can provide. If you're calling a Cuba or a Venezuelan or a Sudan consulate, can we really be sure? I don't think so, he said. We're abandoning every single security norm we learned after 9/11 just to move illegal aliens through the country. Morgan's concerns are shared by John Zendronzi, a former top Trump advisor on Homeland and immigration issues, who said he witnessed firsthand a migrant family being placed on a flight without a normal ID. They're putting people on planes without passports or IDs, he said. We saw it firsthand. We saw a family from Uganda, by the way. They were very well dressed and spoke fluent English and had a lot of money on them. Board a flight without a passport. And so not only is the contrast really sharp, but it's a dangerous contrast. They can have all that, but they can't have an ID. I think the American people need to be fully aware that there are people boarding planes without proof of who they are. Going to points unknown, he said, and that's not only a health risk, that's a potential terrorism risk, and we have to take it seriously. TSA officials say they are confident the current procedures can adequately verify the identity of illegal migrants before they board a plane, though they declined to discuss specifics. They noted most migrants have some form of ID when they arrive at the border, but some do require alternate verification, they added. The identification of migrants is verified using accepted forms of immigration issued documents as well as with other foreign issued documents and passports that identify travelers, one official explained. TSA officials were unable to provide just the news, a total number of migrants who were allowed to board planes without the normally required IDs, saying it's statistically they do not readily track. So Zronsky, now a top advisor of American First Policy Institute, said he believes Congress should use its oversight authority to review the process and practices. I think Congress really needs to take a hard look about preventing these types of waivers, he told John Solomon Reports podcast this week. Airline executives told Just the News their airline check-in counters from time to time will see a migrant checking in baggage without the normally required ID, and they will instead show a waiver-like form from the CBP saying they are approved for travel. Official spokesman for United, American, Southwest, and Delta Airlines did not return calls, emails, or web messages seeking comment. Crazy times we live in. Thank the Lord that He's still in control, and we have a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening here in the next few weeks, we hope. We pray, and just stay on your knees in prayer. Stay vigilant. Call your senators, your House. Tell them that, we're through with this administration, and we want November 3rd fixed. At any rate, this is Don V with Truth Be Told, and we are out of here.